Put your faith in the light.
Hello guys, welcome to another one of my videos. This is Lightblade, and well, in this one we'll be doing our first Mythic Plus Vault opening of the War Within. And well, after that I'll be telling you guys some tips and tricks of what you can do on the following, well, this week of Mythic Plus, because there's some small changes that are going to be happening. So now let's go open the vault. So basically we want to get trinkets. I've been very unlucky with trinkets. Well, actually half unlucky, you know. I've been trying to get a Cadros mark from Brimbatol, but it's impossible. It doesn't drop, or the group just fails at the end. I did get a sack brute, which is pretty good. Sadly, I only got 2 vault slots of max level mythic gear from Mythic Plus, you know, so one of those is only a heroic one. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I then did the elves, and I basically kind of couldn't do raiding too much because I had like internet issues. But anyways, let's go and open the vault. So let's check if we're in Retribution spec. I am. Perfect. And let's open it. Give me some good trinkets, or at least something useful, you know. And we got, come on, something good. That's a ring, that's a cloak, and that's a shoulder. So it's not a great vault. I think I'm going to be taking the cloak because it's the best one, you know. It's a mythic and it has good stats. From the ring, this ring is actually pretty good. If I use this ring, crit is not a bad stat. We actually like crits, but I want to have haste on most of my pieces of my gear, you know. I could take the ring just to get item level up. It would also make it possible, if I take the ring, I can upgrade my other ring, you know, to a higher item level, because I do have a 613, I think. Let me check. 613. I do have a 613 ring. This is actually kind of a bad vault, but we can't really complain. Last week we got a really good one. We got tier set there. We got 4 tier set from our vault, so it's bound to happen that sometimes you don't get lucky. From the delve slots, we have a razor. I have another ring and legs. So yeah, I think I'm just going to take the cloak. There's not much other good things that I could take. This one would have been great, you know, if it was mythic. I would have taken the shoulders, but it's only heroic. So yeah, let's take the cloak. Sadly, we'll have to just go with that. It's not a great vault, but it's what we have. Nice. At least it's good stats. Crit mastery. Perfect. Okay, now let's go talk about the changes that will happen this week in Mythic Plus and some tips that you can apply to them. Okay guys, this week we have a new Xal'atath's affix, and this one is Oblivion. So instead of the orbs that appear and just you have to CC them to get the haste buff, this week they will appear, but they will try to reach the enemies and you have to absorb them, so you get a mastery and leech buff. This stacks, so get as many orbs as you can, because we love mastery as paladins. And if they reach the enemy, they will give them damage reduction. So this is horrible. I think it's a lot more punishing than the last affix we had, the one that gives them haste, because this week the mobs are also fortified, so they will be having a lot more health. If an orb reaches them, they will have damage reduction, and yeah, you're gonna be screwed if they live too long. So yeah, that's one thing. After that, yeah, we have fortified instead of tyrannical, but that doesn't really matter once you reach the level 10 of keys, because then you will have both affixes applied at the same time. So yeah, basically that's the rundown of the affixes. Now, of the tips that you can use as a Retribution Paladin for this week, I've been using different types of combinations of builds. So this week I think it's really good to go with this combination, Execution Sentence plus Empyrean Power on keys that have, let's say, lieutenant mobs or mobs that have more health than others. Places like this can be Mist of Trinacite. There's like Siege of Borealis that has like one big fat guy, and then there's a lot of little guys as well. This way you have some priority damage with Execution Sentence that you can put on that big mob, and you can still like AoE stuff with your Empyrean Power procs. Other than that, if you really want to focus down on like priority damage, I've been using this build as well. This is Empyrean Legacy plus Execution Sentence. This gives you the most single target without sacrificing too much of AoE, because you still get Empowered Divine Storms with Empyrean Legacy, which is pretty good. It helps you also deal with this type of enemies, you know, priority target enemies or bosses that are really dangerous. This week we're going to have fortified on the earlier level of keys, but we'll still have to deal with tyrannical eventually. So I like this build a lot to deal with those enemies. And there's dungeons where there's like mobs that have mostly the same health, which then I use this build, you know. I like to use Final Reckoning plus Imperial Legacy. That way I have like flat AoE damage with Final Reckoning on everything and just plow them with that. And then I have like Imperial Legacy to have some extra priority damage. You know, there's a lot of combinations of talents that you can take depending on the dungeon. It's not like black and white. So experiment with those and see what it fits for each dungeon. Okay guys, before I end the video, there is some like hotfix tuning that Blizzard did before for Mythic Plus this week, and we are going to talk about it really fast now. So first of all, most of these are going to be nerfs because a lot of the keys last week were very rough, especially the first one, Green Battle. Faceless Corruptor, corrupt damage reduced by 10%, which is that leash damage that it does on you. It was massive, so this is really good change. And the precast time is increased by to 1.7 seconds. It was 1 second, so you can prepare for this a bit faster. You get like a nice defensive, or your healer can like pre-hot you or something like that so you survive this, because it was extremely punishing. As a paladin, I normally just puff bubble or like lay on hands to at low health to just survive that. It was incredibly punishing. Next up we have Twilight Destroyer. Twilight Ember should no longer tick instantly. So that's the crap that the big dragon puts on the ground. It was really obnoxious because at the moment you touched it, you took damage, which is really horrible, especially if your tank plated the dragon near the door and you didn't have a way to pass those puddles. You might die trying to reach the other side. So it was extremely obnoxious. Next up we have Twilight Destroyers. Twilight Flame can no longer be spell reflected, so I'm guessing warriors were spell reflecting it too much and ripped their utility, I guess. Next up we have Twilight Warlock. Enveloping Shadow Flame now applies 1 curse per cast. It was 2 curses. So yeah, this was too problematic for group compositions. You basically needed to get as many cursed spells to go into Green Battle because of this thing, and it was going to be even worse this week because of the fortified on lower keys. So yeah, this is a really good change. Next up we have Mutated Hatchling. Shadow Wound now increases shadow damage taken by 3%. It was 5%. So yeah, this is just too much for those little crappy mobs to apply that shadow extra damage. It's nice to see this nerfed. After that we have some possible health changes because I think it's necessary. Like 10s were a super slog last week, although maybe it's intended because we're not like at max item level gear, you know, but still things like didn't die fast and it was kind of annoying. Next up we have some changes to Erudax. So this is the last boss of Green Battle. There's something called Death Grasp Immunity that was added. So according to WOWHEAD, they don't really know what this does, but maybe it's some way that you can become immune to those tentacles that grab you. Maybe after you get hit by one of them, you get immunity for a few seconds or something like that. That makes you be able to like just step on them and just clear them. Or maybe they're just making it so immunity is no longer clear the tentacles. That would be horrible because that was the only way that you could do this boss like cleanly, having the paladins, death knights, or any class that had an immunity clear the tentacles. Hopefully it's not that. Anyways, after that we have Shadow Wound now increases shadow damage taken by 3%. It was 5%. So it is the same on this boss. There's the little ads that appear before he does its big AoE damage. If you kill those ads, you basically wipe because your group was taking a massive amount of extra shadow damage. Now you can, I think, probably kill the little ads before that and survive, but I really recommend not killing the little ads before the boss does the big AoE thing. Anyways, it's a nice nerf to see here. Next up we have the Stone Vault. So the Master Machinist. So this is the second or third boss depending on what way you go. But this is the 2 boss pair, you know. So Exile Spence duration reduced to 3 seconds was 6 seconds. And the first tick of damage happens instantly. So I'm guessing it's less damage that you're going to be taking when the vents appear, which is nice. That fight is so hectic that I'm thinking this is going to be really helpful for healers, you know. So we're not taking extreme damage all the time. Molten Metal cast time increased to 3 seconds was 2 seconds. This is good because sometimes the boss that casts Molten Metal like jumps away super fast and it's kind of hard to see where it is, and you need a range kick on that thing or you're just gonna take the damage from that. So I think it's just nice that they increase the cast time so it's more manageable. Next up we have Siege of Borealis. Blacktar Bomber Burning Tar no longer has damage variance. Yeah, this thing hurt a lot, and sometimes people were just expecting it not to die, but then they died whenever it hit them. So yeah, this is just a nice change to avoid those situations like random stuff and random deaths. Blacktar Bomber Burning Tar now has a 40-yard range. It was 35 yards. So yeah, now you basically, I'm guessing you can't outrange it. but it's better because you no longer have that variance in the damage. Anyways, after we have Bleach, Rast, Tempest, Choking Waters now has a 3.5 second cast. It was 3 seconds, so this one's not too problematic. Whenever you pull these mobs, normally you did it with like the frogs that also did like a slime cast, and that's pretty much it. There was no other kicks. So yeah, even though this nerf is not as needed, it's nice to see it, you know. After that we have the Bleach, Rat, Demolisher, Crushing Slam, the damage reduced by 40%. So this was in the past a frontal slam that this giant did. Blizzard made it so it's just AoE damage on the whole group, and it hurts a lot. So I'm thinking they're doing this to prevent on lower keys fortified people just dying from it flat out, because it was going to do a ton of damage. So I'm guessing it's a good nerf. I really think they should have just let that thing be just a frontal, you know, so people can avoid it. Yeah, I know it's easier to avoid it that way, but making it hit the whole group is kind of annoying. Okay, let's look at the next changes. So possible health changes, same thing as before. They're just probably going to reduce the health on some stuff, because like keys, they have so much health, you know. So yeah, probably some small nerf to health there. And after that we have a nerf to Chopper Red Hook. Iron Hook no longer ignores line of sight and has a 40-yard range. It was 100 yards. So no longer ignores line of sight. Okay, so I'm guessing like range people can just stand somewhere where, and before the hook, they get hooked and can avoid it, you know. Yeah, good. I think it's a good change, and you can now outrange it if you move 40 yards away, which is kind of wild for a melee DPS, but maybe range people can do it, you know. I'm guessing it's them that have to worry more about this, because most of the melee classes are either plate or have better defensive than some of the range. Okay, next up we have a nerfs to Vic Goth, which is the big purple, squid thing at the end. Slam scales damage slower in a group, but has a 0.05 variance instead of so more variance. They're adding more variance, but the damage is lower. Huh. This can be good or bad. Look, WOWHEAD says this means it can do less damage, but it can also do more, which is weird. But I'm guessing this is kind of a nerf, you know. Next one is Putrid Waters no longer has damage variance. It was 0.1%. So yeah, I'm guessing the damage is a bit more streamlined on this. I would have liked to see a nerf on these Putrid Waters, because sometimes healer gets overwhelmed with 2 of them at the same time. But yeah, they can dispel, you know, one of them, but there's sometimes it goes on 2 DPS and it's kind of rough if the other one doesn't have a defensive. Anyways, I think a nerf on Putrid Waters would have been nice to see in the damage numbers. Okay, those are all the changes that Blizzard is doing for this week. Probably they're going to be a bit more in the way in the middle of the week, because, you know, 45 weeks hurt a lot on trash, and people are going to get one-shot by stuff that they didn't last week, especially tanks. If you're a tank, be aware, don't do big pulls, because you're going to get one shot. You can't do the same pulls as last week. And well guys, that's going to be the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching everyone.